We are one in the Spirit. We are one in the Lord.
In July 2007, a group of angry citizens crowded outside of San Francisco's town hall to protest a rally of Christian teenagers. The liberal crowd called Christians bigoted fanatics who instill hate into their children. They said they felt condemned by the very presence of believers in their city. Incidents such as these have caused American Christians to ask the question, what happened? If Christ said that the world would, quote, know we are Christians by our love, why is it that when people on the streets were asked by filmmaker Dan Merchant what they thought of Christ, they responded,
love,
forgiveness,
loving the poor,
caring for the least of people.
But when asked what they thought of Christians, they quickly replied,
fanaticism,
the Crusades,
warfare,
being really snobby.
Quite simply, where did all the love go? Or as Dan Merchant asks in his new film, why is the gospel of love dividing America? This is Brooke Butler with Christ in the Culture, where kingdoms collide. My father, who has served as a pastor for the past 20 years, was the first person who came to mind when pondering this question. So here I am with my dad. Hey, Dad.
Hey, Brooke.
Hey, and we are here talking about Christianity and the culture. Can you tell me why you think there's such a disparity between what the public thinks they think about Christ and what they think about Christians?
I think it comes really from, you can talk about Jesus, and a lot of people will say, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus, or Jesus was a good guy, and that kind of thing. But they'll also say that about other religious figures or other religions or whatever. But then when they really see it lived out in somebody's life, sometimes that's offensive. In other words, to say that you are lost if you don't know Christ, and He is the only way, okay, and you must receive Him by faith. If you don't do that, you're going to a place called hell. That's offensive.
However, Butler agrees with Merchant that some of the antagonism Christians are facing is not due to the Christ coming out of believers' lives, but rather the perceived arrogance. The premise of his film, entitled Lord Save Us from Your Followers, is that the American church has somehow lost the ability to effectively and lovingly communicate the gospel. I did some on-the-spot interviewing of my own to determine why believers think this is happening.
One reason that I've noticed in Christians, especially the quote older generation, is that they tend not to listen to other people. For something they disagree on, they'll be really uptight about it.
I think there's definitely the perspective that we're isolationists or elitists, because since the fundamental movement, we basically, withdrawn into our own little bubble. I think if we got into the culture more and interacted with people on a personal level rather than just preaching at them, that would probably help with the whole Christians are snobs thing.
I think it's become that way for a couple of reasons. One, Christians have probably moved into their churches rather than out into the culture in a very real sense. We really don't actively serve the community like we should.
But what can Christians do on an individual level to become more accessible to non-believers? Butler believes the answer is simple. Return to the heart of the gospel.
The way I like to think about it is we are wounded people ourselves who have found a great healer, and we want others to find Him too. I think we develop this us-them mentality and kind of even think of ourselves as better. But we have to realize, we are sinners saved by grace. Without Christ, my goodness, what are we?
On the night Jesus was arrested and sentenced to execution, He warned His disciples that they would be hated by the world just as He was. Then, in a radical statement of love and power so great that even the secular world would never forget, He showed His followers how they were to deal with those who persecuted them. He loved them. This was His final charge to His disciples. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no man than this, that he lays down his life for his friends. Christian, is this kind of radical love your trademark? By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. This is Brooke Butler for Christ in the Culture.